ensuring massive observance of the anniversary of the Savior's birth by assigning it to this recent date, the church, for its, part tactically agreed to allow, I guess, the holiday to be celebrated more or less the way it had always been. The earliest Christmas holidays were celebrated by drinking, sexual indulgence, singing naked in the streets. Now, I guess that would be like kind of a precursor to modern caroling, I guess. Which I would appreciate the carolers if they were fucking singing naked in the streets. Other than that, they're just fucking aggravating. So, what do you think so far about Christmas? Christmas used to be a fucking party, man. The Reverend Increase Mather of Boston observed in 1687 that the early Christians who first observed the Nativity on December 25th did not do so thinking that Christ was born in that month, but because the heathens, the Saturnilla people, Saturnilla was at the time kept in Rome, and they were willing to have those pagan holidays metamorphosized into Christian ones. Because of its known pagan origin, Christmas was banned by the Puritans, and its observance was illegal in Massachusetts between 1659 and 1681. However, Christmas was and still is celebrated by most Christians. So, the whole point of this, Christians, if you're keeping up, is that your holiday is not based on the birth of Jesus. It's based on Saturnalia, which is based on, kind of like a fucking free-for-all because you couldn't get caught. And so what the Christians did, even the early Christians, what they did was went out and raped and murdered and pillaged and partied and had sex and ate too much and got drunk and sang naked. There you go. Now, some of those depraved customs of the Saturnalia Carnival were intentionally revived by the Catholic Church in 1466 when Pope Paul II, for the amusement of his Roman citizens, forced Jews to race naked through the streets of the city. An eyewitness account reports before they were to run, the Jews were richly fed so as to make the race more difficult for them and at the same time more amusing for the spectators. They ran amid robes, taunting shreks, and pearls of laughter, while the Holy Father stood upon a richly ordained balcony and laughed heartily. Yeah, poor Jews, man. But the people have been fucking with them forever. As part of the Saturnalia's carnival throughout the 18th and 19th centuries, rabbis of the ghetto in Rome were forced to wear clownish outfits and march through the city streets to the jeers of the crowd, pelted by a variety of missiles. When the Jewish community of Rome sent a petition in 1836 to Pope Gregory XVI, begging him to stop the annual Saturnalia abuse of the Jewish community, he responded, and I quote, "It is not opportune to make any innovation." On December 25th, 1881, Christian leaders whipped the Polish masses into anti-Semitic frenzies and led to riots across the country. In Warsaw, 12 Jews were brutally murdered, huge numbers maimed, and many Jewish women were raped. 2 million rubles worth of property was destroyed. That was on December 25th, 1881. Well, there is your history of Christmas. There it is. This is what you guys celebrate and the reason you guys celebrate it. Instead of just saying, I just like to get fucking presents. That's what I like. That I appreciate. I like Christmas. Don't get me wrong. I just don't observe it for the same reason that Christians do. I'm all about the Saturnalia. I get drunk. I party. I open up shit that I have fun with. I mean, I do all that kind of stuff. So, I guess many of you are probably going to be wondering, what's the origins of the Christmas customs? I mean, what is that got to do with a fucking tree, some mistletoe, presents, fucking Santa Claus? What does anything have to do with that shit? Well, guess what? I'm going to tell you. The origin of the Christmas tree, which is brief. Just as the early Christians recruited Roman pagans by associating Christmas with the Saturnalia, so too many worshippers of the Asherah cult and its offshoots were recruited by the church sanctioning Christmas trees. Pagans had long worshipped trees in the forest or brought them into their homes and decorated them. And this observance was adopted and painted with a Christian veneer by the church. There's your Christmas tree. Now, what about that mistletoe, that friggin' thing that you get to make out under? I like me some mistletoe, because if I go to a Christmas party, usually the next day I have, like, fucking mono or something. I mean, it's a good thing. I hang it all over the place if I have a Christmas party. However, Norse mythology, gotta love the Norwegians. Norse mythology recounts how god Balder was killed using a mistletoe arrow by his rival god Hoder while fighting for the female Nanna. Druid rituals use mistletoe to poison their human sacrificial victim. The Christian custom of kissing under the mistletoe is a later synthesis of the sexual license of Saturnalia with the Druidic sacrificial cult. Damn. Now, the origin of Christmas presents. I like this one. In the pre-Christian Rome, the emperors compelled their most despised citizens to bring offerings and gifts during the Saturnalia in December and Kalenids in January. Later, this ritual expanded to include gift-giving among the general populace. The Catholic Church gave this custom a Christian flavor by rerooting it in the supposed gift-giving of St. Nicholas. Speaking of St. Nicholas, you might want to know about his origin. What's the origin of Santa Claus? Huh? What's the origin of Santa Claus? That's got to be at least somewhat better, right? Nicholas, St. Nick, was born in Papara, Turkey in 270 CE and later became Bishop of Myra. He died in 345 CE on December 6th. He was only named a saint in the 19th century. So we had the 19th century before this guy ever became a saint, St. Nick. Nicholas was among the most senior bishops who convened the Council of Nicaea in 325 CE. Oh, bring it back to Nicaea. And created the New Testament. The text they produced portrayed Jews as the children of the devil who sentenced Jesus to death. In 1087, a group of sailors who idolized Nicholas moved his bones from Turkey to a sanctuary in Bari, Italy. There, Nicholas supplanted a female boon-giving deity, I guess, called the grandmother, and who used to fill the children's stockings with her gifts. The grandmother was ousted from her shrine at Bari, which became the center of the Nicholas cult. Members of this group gave each other gifts during a pageant they conducted annually on the anniversary of Nicholas's death, December 6th. Now, the St. Nick cult spread north until it was adopted by German and Celtic pagans. These groups worship a pantheon led by Woden, their chief god, and the father of Thor, Balder, and Tiwa. Woden had a long white beard and rode a horse through the heavens one evening each autumn. When Nicholas merged with Woden, he shed his Mediterranean appearance, grew a beard, mounted a flying horse, rescheduled his flight for December, and donned heavy winter clothing. Now, in a bid for pagan adherents in Northern Europe, the Catholic Church adopted the Nicholas cult and taught that he did, and they should, distribute gifts on December 25th instead of December 6th. In 1809, the novelist Washington Irving He was, I guess, most famous for The Legend of Sleepy Hollow and Rip Van Winkle. Wrote a satire of Dutch culture entitled Knickerbocker History. The satire refers several times to the white-bearded, flying horse-riding fucking St. Nicholas using his Dutch name, Santa Claus. I feel like Casey Kasem. Dr. Clement Moore, a professor at Union Seminary, read Knickerbocker's history, and in 1822 he published a poem based on the character St. Nicholas. Do you know what that poem was, boys and girls? Everybody? 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung with the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. Moore innovated by portraying a Santa with 8 reindeer who descended through chimneys. The Bavarian illustrator Thomas Nast almost completed the modern picture of Santa Claus. From 1862 through 1886, based on Moore's poem. Nast drew more than 2,200 cartoon images of Santas for Harper's Weekly. Now, before Nast, St. Nicholas had been pictured as everything from a stern-looking bishop to a gnome-like figure in a frock. Nast also gave Santa a home at the North Pole. His workshop filled with elves and a list of the good and bad children of the world. All Santa was missing was his red outfit. Well, there's the history behind that as well. In 1931, the Coca-Cola Corporation contracted the Swedish commercial artist Haddon Sundblom to create a Coke-drinking Santa. Sundblom modeled his Santa to his friend Lou Prentice, chosen for his cheerful, chubby face. The corporation insisted that Santa's fur-trimmed beard be bright Coca-Cola red. And Santa was born, a blend of Christian crusader, pagan god, and commercial idol. Interesting. Well, I don't know. I think many who are excitedly preparing for Christmas celebrations would prefer not knowing about the holiday's real significance. If they do know the history, they often object that their celebration has nothing to do with the holiday's monstrous history and meaning. We're just having fun. So let's put this into perspective. Let's imagine that between 1933 and 1945, the Nazi regime celebrated Adolf Hitler's birthday, April 20th, as a holiday. Let's imagine that they name the day Hitler Day and observe the day with feasting, drunkenness, gift-giving, and various pagan practices. Imagine that on that day, Jews were historically subject to perverse tortures and abuse, and that this continued for centuries. Now, let's imagine that your great-great-great-grandchildren were about to celebrate Hitler Day. April 20th arrived. They had long forgotten about Auschwitz and Bergen-Belsen. They have never heard of gas chambers or death marches. They had purchased champagne and caviar and were about to begin the party when someone reminded them of the day, real history, and their ancestors' agony. Imagine that they were initially objected. We aren't celebrating the Holocaust. We're just having a little Hitler Day party. If you could travel forward in time and meet them, if you could say a few words to them, what would you advise them to do on Hitler Day? I don't know. I don't know. Now, the history of New Year's, relatively brief, I think. History of New Year's is, and look, man, we're only at 30 minutes. I mean, I'm doing fucking good because I haven't chimed in once, and God knows I've been wanting to. The history of New Year's is very brief. I'm going to go through it right quick. And this, again, is from